Good morning, everyone, and welcome to your Neighborhood Unitarian Universalist congregation. My name is Suzanne. I am in the shared office at our new home on the Danforth, and I have your announcements for this morning. Today, the fourth issue of Knucklehead is out. You can get it at tinyurl.com, Knucklehead 4. Knucklehead is the creative arts magazine put together by Peter, featuring different types of creativity by our own members. The last Sunday of the month, morning chant and singing meditation happens. We didn't have morning chant today. It's been postponed until next week, but we will have singing meditation tonight from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Singing med is multi-faith chants and songs interspersed with periods of silent meditation. That's led by Fred, Phyllis, and myself. You can email me, music@nuuc.ca for more info. If you're interested in joining morning chant next week, come to the regular service space at 9:30 a.m. and we'll meet you in a breakout room. Monday nights are regular spirit choir rehearsal time on Zoom from 7 to 8:30 p.m. You can contact me for more information about the choir. Wednesday mornings, we offer Journey to Awakening, a conscious movement class from 10:15 to 11:30 a.m. That's led by Phyllis Danu. Please write to her for more info. Every Wednesday evening, our minister, Reverend Wayne and Jillian, host a meditation for an hour from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. for beginners and intermediates. Wednesdays and Thursdays, we hope members of the congregation will help support Sandwich Sisters, help to feed local hungry people by preparing sandwiches for local charities. This is supported by C, and you can write to me for more details. Sunday mornings, we offer a child caregiver program before the service from 9 to 9:30 a.m. That's offered by Zach Getchell. Today from 4:30 to 5:30 p.m., the Neighborhood Dance Party Collective is hosting a dance. Today with Alison Barr. You can get there by coming back to this main service space at 4:30. This Monday, the Spirit Choir is hosting a sing-along song circle on the theme of the month, which was Healing the Hurt. So come join and sing with us songs that illuminate the theme of the month with song leaders from our community. All are welcome. You don't have to be a member of the choir. And you're welcome to lead a song yourself or just sing along. You can find that at tinyurl.com, neighborhood music instead of neighborhood service with the same password you used to get on today. And this Thursday, the Knucklehead Creative Space is starting at 8 p.m. That's here in our service Zoom. Draw, write, paint, dance, knit, whatever inspires you, and contribute to issue 5. The first hour of this meeting will be a creative meditative time with a Healing Our Planet creative prompt inspired by today's theme. Those who wish to stay longer for sharing are welcome to do so. You can contact Jessica with questions or suggestions about the creative space. Her email is there. Today after service, please come to the special Reno budget approval meeting. We need to have the voting members attend to meet a quorum for voting today. It's an important meeting. We hope to see you there. Be part of the CUC National Choir project. Gordon and I are putting together a video that will show people taking the flame from one side, passing it on to someone else across Canada. And we're hoping members of Neighborhood will contribute by filming that candle passing. If you're interested and can contribute, please contact me and I can send you all the details. You do not have to be singing to be a part of the candle passing. And I'll pass it to Wayne, who has a special announcement.
Hello, everyone. We're beginning the Circles of Trust again. Circles of Trust are an old Quaker practice that we've been working on for almost 5 years. And where we hold people who are considering ways of rethinking how their lives are going. We thought that during this pandemic, there was a lot of soul searching going on in many folks, and we thought we'd be able to hold that soul searching through this old Quaker practice. Like I said, elders in our community who have been doing this for almost 5 years now will be able to hold you if you want to examine that. Please speak to me about doing that, and we're having openings in March. Thank you.
Welcome to our neighborhood Unitarian Universalist congregation service on Zoom. We are happy you are here as we stay emotionally and spiritually close during these times when we're required to be physically apart. My name is Peter Marmorek, and I will be your virtual service leader this morning from home. Our musical director, Susanne Maziarz, is in our new home at 310 Danforth, and our minister, the Reverend Wayne Walder, is at home and will share the time for all ages. Zach Getchell facilitates our Sunday Child and Caregiver program from his home, which is now once again in Toronto, we're happy to say. We also have Kathy Campbell doing the Zoom web hosting duties, and Alison Kabayama doing the pasting that will appear at appropriate moments in your chat feed. Thank you to all of them. By now, you all know Zoom etiquette. Stay muted, keep the chat open for readings and lyrics, and don't send chat messages to everyone during the service. This service will be shared with the world, both on YouTube and on our most excellent new website. Joys and concerns or similar personal moments will be edited out. If you have privacy concerns, you can turn off your camera so that you're not seen and change your name so that no one knows you're here. We are trying to reach sacred space via cyberspace, and the road is muddy and rough. So we need your help to get there. And our path starts now. So put aside the usual distractions, turn off all other apps, as together we step over the threshold and into sacred space. Our service begins now. As I ask Susanne to light our chalice, I encourage you to light your own personal chalice or candle, or consider holding your hands in the shape of a chalice. Susanne, please light your chalice as we sing.
We light this chalice to remember, to light the fire within our own hearts.
And now for our prelude, which was a delightful joint project between Susanne and myself. In it, Susanne wove a beautiful musical tapestry from several well-known Unitarian Universalist hymns, and I tried to enhance them with a range of less well-known slides. We hope you enjoy hearing and seeing the collaboration as much as we enjoyed creating it. Good morning and welcome. February's theme is healing the hurt, and today we look at environmental pain and healing our planet. In particular, we're going to look at stories and how the stories we live by shape how we see the world. Here's a story you've probably heard before. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. That's a founding story of the Jewish and Christian religions in the first chapter of Genesis, the first book of the Bible. Here's a different story. Then the Creator said, take care of Mother Earth and she will take care of you. Don't get greedy. Take only what you need and remember to put down tobacco before you take from Mother Earth. That's from a translation of the Ojibwe Creation story. I won't belabor the obvious. These different creation stories lead the people who are raised with them towards different attitudes towards our earth. The Ojibwe are members of the Anishinaabe Nation, who together with the Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, and the Mississauga nations lived before the settlers' arrival on the lands most of us are on today. They continue to live here together with the Métis, Inuit, and other First Nations, and we are grateful to them for what they teach us in their stories. If you are visiting us for the first time, we welcome you. Our services differ from week to week, so please come again and experience the range of what we offer. Our mission at Neighborhood is to empower spiritual growth and shared action for the care of the world. Our focus today is on the need to choose a different story as a prerequisite for healing the hurt. Thinking about stories led me to Ursula K. Le Guin, perhaps my favorite storyteller. She once said, there have been great societies that did not use the wheel, but there have been no societies that did not tell stories. At the back of her book, Always Coming Home, she has a chart of generative metaphors, single words that generate entire worldviews. Here are two of them, much simplified. One is based on seeing the world as a manifestation of the Lord. Think God the Father, or Odin, or Zeus, versus seeing the world as a cosmic dance. Think of Shiva, the Lord of Dance. There's a slide here. Kathy, can I have the slide?
Sorry, the slide isn't just isn't coming up. I can't get it to share for some reason.
Okay. Imagine two ways of looking at the world. One is the vision of the Lord. What follows from that is power. People are put into their places by the Lord. God, the most important, of course, are kings who rule by the divine right of kings, and so on down the hierarchy. Medicine, under the Lord, is the power to control. Relationships are relationships with those above and those below. And the universe itself is seen as a hierarchy in which order comes out of chaos. You can remember in the beginning there was nothing, and God said, let there be light, the primal act that created order from chaos. Here's a different metaphor or story. The universe is dance. What follows from the dance is music. People are in cooperation with each other as you are in a dance. Medicine becomes a form of art. Relationships become linkages. And the universe is seen as a harmonious dance between creation and destruction as one thing turns into another. Those are two of the words Le Guin has, and there are many other words she explores. Now you can see what I was just telling you about, that you have the Lord and that column of what follows, or the dance and that. In the full version, there is the war as a central metaphor, the animals, machines, the house. The house is the metaphor that Jesus used in my Father's house. And the way, for Le Guin herself was a Taoist. But the point is that the story through which you see the world shapes how you see everything within that world. As recently as a year ago, we used to ask you to turn to your neighbor and greet them. Now, briefly, unmute your device, switch to gallery view, and shout out a joyous greeting to those you see. We will sound a chime to end. Take a moment and go for it.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, Wayne. Hello, Faith.
Good morning,
Sarah.
everyone.
Everyone.
Hey,
Hi.
David. Hi, Rose. Hi, Judy. Hi, Brenda.
Hi, Jennifer.
Nancy.
Susan. Hi, Brenda. Hi, Jennifer.
Bill, how you
And
doing?
hi, Jessica.
Hi, Leslie.
Hi, Allison.
Hi,
Liz, hi,
Jessica.
Fred.
Hello, Anisha. Hi,
Dolly.
Hey, Devin.
Margaret.
Peter.
Ren. Hello, Ren.
Oh, Kurt.
Hi,
Hello,
Steve.
Doug. Hi, Faith.
Hi, Jesse.
Kevin, Tina.
Hi,
Hello, David.
Hi, Helen.
Hi. Hi, Allison. Hi, Terry and Bruce.
Hi, Lauren.
Hi.
Barbara.
Jeffrey. Hi. Hello. Hi, Sigrid. Going on really long today.
Say hi to everybody.
With so many people, we have to go on long. Now, I invite you to join me in reading our invocation, which is both shown on the screen and in your chat window. If you're on a phone and don't know the words, just listen to our reading. Let us cast a circle of a sacred space here. Let us cast the circle of a cherished space here. A space of safety, a place of forgiveness, a place of love. If we want the world to change, we must craft in our space and in ourselves the seeds that grow a different kind of life, a life of graciousness, of creative intelligence, a place of life and spirit for ourselves and our families. Now, as we hold this place open to grace and insight, take a deep breath as we join Susanne for our opening song. Susanne?
Thanks, Peter. Good morning, everyone. To start the service today, we're going to sing Breaths, which is hymn number 1001 in Singing the Journey. And talking about stories, this hymn is a story around an African viewpoint of the world and an African cosmology towards respect for our ancestors and seeing our ancestors and know that they continue living in the natural world around us. So please join me in singing and mute yourself if you haven't already. Listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Those who have died have never, never left. The dead are not in this crowd. The dead have a pact with the living. So listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters.
Thank you so much for that, Susanne. Now I ask all the young and the young at heart to come closer to your screens and pay particular attention because Reverend Wayne is going to tell you a story. Wayne?
Stories are something that we all tell. We tell about our breakfast in the morning, about our story, about what our parents might have said to us, or as parents, what we might have said to our children. We tell stories about the weather and about what happened at school or work. But it's important to understand that stories sometimes have a way of looking at them that makes us understand a little bit more about how the story affects us. Kathy, I'd like you to put up this one picture, if you would. Now, this is that story that Peter mentioned in Genesis. It's really having God from on high giving something to the best person, and that best person then kind of radiating it all around to the rest of the people around them. That's kind of like what the teacher does, or what a parent does, or what a politician does, a king, like Peter's mentioned. If you take a look at this picture, though, it's very interesting. And Kathy, if you bring the next picture down, you'll see that this picture looks a lot like a pyramid, with something at the top kind of giving things to all the things that are going on below it, or below them, below him or her. That kind of story is a story that talks about kind of grace or information or even largesse being given from one person or one kind of focus. Here's another story, and this comes from the indigenous, idea of a medicine wheel. Do you see here in this story how there isn't one top person, there isn't one top place? The story kind of evolves and knits itself together with all the things that are going on. Can you see beyond the circle to the water and the sky together? Do you see the clouds on the right at the bottom, that orange, and at the top, the pinky orange as the mountain? And do you see the top, right, the water, and the bottom left being the sky? And then the animals and the earth, and in the very center, the whole universe. It's a different way of telling a story, trying to add things in than hearing the story from one person or one point of view. Now, this is what we do when we all get together and we all tell stories while we're eating, and we move the idea and the focus of who's telling the story all around a circle, like at a kitchen table, or maybe just before you play a game together. And if you look at this story, Kathy, if you could flip the next picture, it looks like a circle. That kind of story. Now, there's one other story I wanted to tell you, and this story comes from something that was done a very, very long time ago. In the religion called Hinduism, they also tell the story like a circle. But if you look very carefully, for example, if you look right in the center at the top, it looks like there's a king in a little palace. What they've done is they've added the stories together. There's part of that triangle story here in the circle. And there's also all the things. If you look around the perimeter of the circle, you can see people like picking fruit, and you can see them knitting clothing, and you can see them sailing along on their boat, and you can see them talking and even enjoying each other, cuddling. All of these things are together in this story. And this story is one of the older stories we've ever heard on the earth, probably 1,000 years earlier than the story Peter told from Genesis. I just want us to know that when we tell stories, we're doing something that is so human and so special that we have done it for more than 20,000 years in one way or another. Tell stories today and tell them to your parents. And parents, tell stories of your life to your children. And friends, tell stories to each other. And when we're at work, we can even tell them at the water cooler or as we move in or move out when we're able to come back together again. Tell them at school. And I hope that you'll tell them here sometime too when we have these stories. Zach and I have been talking about a few things like that, and maybe you'll tell them here too. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Wayne, for telling that story. This is a special time in our service when we invite you to share a joy or a concern in your life. Your reactions tab at the bottom of the main window is now the place to raise a virtual hand if you have a joy or a concern. If you're here on a phone without a screen, you can raise your hand by pressing *9. To speak, you need to unmute yourself, and to be seen, you need to have your camera on. Once you've spoken, please remute yourself. I'll start with a few general joys and concerns. We start by expressing gratitude for all the volunteer efforts, seen and unseen, that help our community to hold together. We express gratitude that an effective vaccine against COVID is coming, and we are concerned at the glacial pace at which it's coming. We are grateful for the creativity that is shown by this congregation in so many ways. We are joyful that the Magpie River in northern Quebec was this week granted legal personhood in a Quebec court, which is the start of a new story. I am grateful as a straight white male to all those who help me to see beyond my own set of blinkers. My book club this week was discussing Girl, Woman, Other, a marvelous book by Bernardine.
Excuse me.
Sorry, Wayne.
One of the things I try to do in joys and concerns is try to tell a joy, a single joy, or a single concern, because what we're doing is we're trying to hold a sacred moment that we can offer to each other. And so all of us can listen to it and see through our eyes and their eyes the commonality of our humanity. I wonder if you could focus your story a little better.
I am grateful for being exposed to literature that helps me to widen my sense of who I am. You've just seen a story on why we shouldn't tell stories during joys and concerns. I deliberately messed up so that you don't have to. This is a time in our community that brings us closer in times that are separating us. In that case, we conclude joys and concerns by honoring all those joys and concerns that remain unspoken in our hearts. And now I ask our minister to lead us in meditation. Wayne?
We all know how to do this in some way. Instead of calling it meditation, we might want to call it just sitting quietly. And I thought a guided meditation today might be a good one. A guided meditation, a story, but the story would be about you. and it would use the meditative technique of memory. Can you remember a time when you were very small? A time when you could feel the smoothness of your own skin, or for the first time felt roughness or water sliding over your hands or your feet. Can you remember when you were tall enough to see over the tables and the chairs, watching people learning how they told their stories and what they did? In this meditation, see if you can actually remember it so clearly that you can feel it. Do you remember the first time that you struck out on your own and no one was there to help, and you had to learn what to do next, watching everything around you, feeling whole, or mostly whole, inside? Do you remember the time you first fell in love? The look, the feel. And do you remember the first time that someone you loved died? Sometimes we can forget that we are the story too. And our story is important. And for as long as we live, we can develop our story, because we won't live forever. So feel the whole story of you inside. As long as sun will shine, as long as we keep our home, we'll tell our story. And Kathy, could you start the video and the music? Can I call you back? That song was written by Pete Seeger, who's a Unitarian like many of us. Lovely song. This month's theme has been healing the hurt, and since both healing and hurt are largely emotional, the last two services about forgiveness and making mistakes were appropriately emotional. In today's service, though, I wanted to bring our intellect to the idea of healing the earth. Hopefully, we can use our thoughtfulness as a tool for healing the earth, our home. We all know that we as humans are responsible for much of the damage to our planet. We're experiencing unpredictable severe weather, melting glaciers, and changing climate zones. We know about the 3 R's, reduce, reuse, recycle, and I'm sure you've also heard this following list. We hear it often when we wonder what we can do to help the planet out. Kathy, if you could put that list up, it's walking or taking transit instead of driving, limiting our consumption and reducing our food waste, using less energy at home and limiting our air travel, maybe fixing our house up a little bit to make it more energy efficient, using renewable energy, eating less meat and more plant-based foods, and asking politicians to do more to fight climate change. In the last couple of decades, we humans have also figured out technologies that can help the planet. These ideas are made popular through people like Bill Gates and other prominent technocrats. And we should use every tool we have available to help us heal this planet. Yet so far, scientific facts and dire warnings have not motivated a lot of people to support the huge transformations needed to stop climate change. And so there's another idea we might consider. What is it in us that allows us to damage the planet? What gives us license to treat each other and the world this way? What gives us license to subdue the world and even certain people in it? We have used the earth and everything on it to survive for a very long time, and that is a lot of momentum that we need to change. Many people are beginning to believe that we need a new story to help us care for Mother Earth and each other. Peter read that old story of Genesis written 1,000 years before Christianity. There are many others. Take a look at this one from the Hebrew Psalms. You made them rulers over the works of your hands. you put everything under their feet. All flocks and herds and the animals of the wild, the birds of the sky, and the fish in the sea, all that swim paths of the seas. This was written 1,000 years before Christianity ever began. The story of humankind having dominion over the world as ordained by a paternalistic God has been one of the foundational stories of the developed world. And during the last 200 years, we've created an economic and social system called capitalism that dovetails really nicely into the notion of domination of the world. Capitalism offers a pathway for skilled and lucky people to use the earth for their own profit. It's not just an economic system, it's also a social system based upon private ownership, an uncontrolled and unregulated economy that uses privately owned land as the means for profit. Often, this profit is made through the exploitation of the earth. There are other ideas that keep us from healing the planet. We expect to have independence. We demand freedom, mobility, and self-reliance. Yet these can easily compete with sustainability, with interconnectedness, and mutuality. Having dominion over the world, owning the earth for profit, and expecting to do whatever we want, regardless of the consequence. These are also part of damaging the planet. And they're so deeply rooted in our psyche that we just accept them. It reminds me of that story of two young fish swimming along when they happen to meet an older fish swimming the other way. The older fish says, "Morning, boys, how's the water?" And the two young fish swim on for a bit. Then eventually one of them looks at the other and says, "What the heck is water?" The most obvious, important realities are often the ones that are hardest to see and talk about. They can sound like a platitude, but the fact is that in the day-to-day of our adult existence, banal platitudes can sometimes have a life and death importance. The stories we tell ourselves and each other, the social constructs we support, can hurt or heal this planet as deeply as CO2. I wonder, I know I am, and maybe we are complicit in this story about being controlled of the planet. And we use its sequel, capitalism, out of the hope that we can make our precious lives good. We want our precious and short lives to be joyful and prosperous. Nature and God should give us that, shouldn't it? We take dominion over the earth for our own gain because God said it was good and capitalism says it's right. This is so human and so understandable because everything in each of us is our own immediate experience, and it supports the deep belief that we are the absolute center of the universe, the most vivid and important person in existence. We rarely consider this natural self-centeredness because it's so socially repulsive. But it's pretty much the same for all of us. It's our default setting, hardwired into our brains. There's no experience that we have not been the total center of. The world as we experience it is there in front of us or behind us, to the left or right of us. The center awareness is widespread in both rich people and in poor, with people who are good and kind as well as mean. We all see this. Our story can be very, very self-centered. When I was a child at a family gathering, my very kind aunt told me and my cousins that we could do anything we wanted in the world, anything we wanted with our lives. With a good education, we could become wealthy, go into space, or even become president or prime minister. There was no limit to what we could do. But Aunt Esther never considered harden the world from the vantage point of our own self-interest. And self-interest is in the heart of society by reflecting and speaking together in places like this, where we can question the story of our culture. And if we reconsider the stories we tell about what it means to live a good life, and if we make our self-interest conscious, we regain some control over how we act and what we will do with the future. And we know it. We've been doing it. When the kitchen committee reminds us about eating locally, healthy and simple food, and serves us, that changes the story a little. When the C committee reminds us about how we need more equity in the justice system, as we did just a few weeks ago, we adjust the story. When we move onto the subway, we promote public transit and walk our talk, literally. When we put 112 solar panels on the roof of Hiawatha, we've taken more than 15 tons of carbon out of the atmosphere and changed the narrative about unreliable, renewable energy. When we partner with Jews and the Christians in our new location, we show that cooperation is important and we don't always have to compete. When we slow down our headlong rush into the next moment with song and silence, through music and sitting quietly, we lessen our self-interest a little bit. And that allows us to see new visions. When we tell stories of equity, stories about goodness, sharing, interconnectedness, generosity, forgiveness, ethics, tied to the way we live our lives, these are certainly as important as paper bags because they allow us to modify our behavior and as modeling for the behavior of others. When we believe, as the culture often promotes, that money and things are more important, when we believe that fame and beauty are most important, when we believe winning is the only thing in a human life, these things will eat us up alive. And they are destroying the planet. Stories are a direct route to our emotions. They shed light on specific problems, like Michael Moore does in the movie Capitalism, a Love Story. They can engender the glue that holds us together, like in the movie The Color Purple. And they can call us to action, like in a movie called The Inconvenient Truth, 1 and 2. The stories we tell shape culture, and they shape what we're doing with the planet. 10,000 years ago, our hunter-gatherer ancestors lived sustainably because it was the only way they could survive. Now, we are in a similar position. We must live sustainably to survive on this planet. With great respect, I ask you to hold the new stories we have begun, that you've begun, that we've begun inside you when you want to go out and buy something you don't need. Respectfully, share these stories with your family, with your friends, and with your colleagues without putting pressure on them. I'm reminded of the quote by Margaret Mead: "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed individuals can change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that ever has." I bless you and me to do this. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, Wayne. In these stressful times, we remember that neighborhood is a living entity, and like all living things, it needs nurture and sustenance. If you contribute by pre-authorized withdrawals, thank you. As we contribute to the life of this community, we affirm our lives within it. We can't pass the basket, but for those who do make contributions to the basket, consider writing a check or making an e-transfer, which is the most cost-effective way to give. Consider doing a recurring gift. I was amazed how easy it was to do. A link is in your chat window for you now, and all you need to do is click on it, and it will take you directly to our donation page. We'll now have a brief pause, and Susanne will play.
The lone wild bird in lofty flight is still with thee, nor leaves thy sight, and I am thine, I rest in thee. Great Spirit, come and rest in me. The ends of earth are in thy hand, the seas dark, deep, and far off land, and I am thine, I rest in thee. Great Spirit, come and rest in me.
Thank you. Now, Susanne will lead us in the final song for the earth forever turning.
Again, this song is probably in my top 5 UU hymns. I enjoy the sentiment and the music very much. I hope you'll sing with me and celebrate our blue-green hills of earth. For the earth forever turning, for the skies for every sea, for our lives, for all we cherish, sing we our joyful song of peace. For the mountains, hills, and pastures, in their silent majesty, for the stars, for all the heavens, sing we our joyful song of peace. For the sun, for rain and thunder, for the seasons' harmony, for our lives, for all creation, sing we our joyful praise to thee. For the world we raise our voices, for the home that gives us birth. In our joy we sing, returning home to our blue-green hills of earth.
Thank you, Susanne. I've conditioned myself to the point where I start seeing those slides as you sing that song. And now I invite Susanne to extinguish our chalice as we sing.
Although our chalice has been darkened, we hold the
In our past and in our future, we will have been able to circle around and hold each other's hands. But in the present, go to gallery view and unmute yourself. Together, let us say Namaste, which means I salute the spirit within you.
Namaste.
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 Namaste, everyone.
Namaste.
Karen Blixen, the author of Out of Africa, once wrote, "All sorrows can be born if they can be seen as part of a story. All sorrows can be born if they can be seen as part of a story." I bless you with the prayer that you may all find stories that make your sorrows lighter. Our service has ended. We will not have breakout rooms today, but instead there is a special meeting which will be starting around noon. So take a quick break, but leave your Zoom connected so that we can register you, and we'll see each other here again in just a few minutes. Thank you for being part of today's service.